Hi everyone, it's Scott, aka Ginger Pops. Um, I wanted to record something a little bit different, than the norm of the Funko Pops or of the wrestling and stuff. And I was actually contemplating doing this for quite a while, kind of recording this in kind of like a 4 or 5 part series. Um, was kind of, you know, kind of letting people know more about me, per se, um, and kind of how certain things in my life have affected me and has basically um, shaped me and molded me into the person I am now. Um, as of most of you, well, some of you know, I grew up in foster care in Washington State. Mostly around the Seattle area. I did get placed into a few placements in the eastern part of the state, which is mostly real deserty and dry and arid. Um, but I would like to explain the story of how that became to be, how why that happened, and and kind of like a progression from then until now. This isn't me trying to seek sympathy from people like, oh, poor Scott. No, no. This is more to just kind of bring awareness to certain things, and also show that like you never truly know what a person's going through unless you talk to that person, and if that person is comfortable enough to obviously open up and talk to you. Um, so I was born in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and and then my family and I we bounced a lot between Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and Elizabeth, New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. Like that whole area, kind of back and forth, back and forth. Um, and when we ended up in Pennsylvania, um, my father had actually gotten a really good offer, I guess. That's the way I remember it. Um, in Seattle, and we'd bounced around the country at that point. Like we've lived in Georgia and Texas, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, um, like just buco places. Um, myself, I moved around a lot too, and but I'll get that later. Um, I remember my mother and um, my father went out to Seattle first. He kind of, I don't know if he drove or if he took a Greyhound, but he went out to Seattle first ahead of all of us. It was my mother, myself, my twin brother, my younger brother, and then my youngest sister. We were all, oh, and then our older sister. We're all on a Greyhound bus, and we took a Greyhound bus from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania to Seattle, Washington. Um, it's just about 3,000 miles. It took us about 4.5 days. So you can imagine my wife with us kids on a bus that long. Um, it was grueling, to say the least. Especially on a bus, you don't get showers. They don't stop at truck stops for you to take showers and like no, like you were constantly go 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 go. Um, and then when you get bus transfers, sometimes you get to sit there for an hour, sometimes you get to sit there for 12 hours. It doesn't, it all depends. Um, but then I remember we got to Seattle and my father started getting everything set up, and it looked like everything was going to be okay. Looked like we were going to make it, which was awesome. And we actually relocated to Everett, Washington. Um, my father actually found us a house right down the street currently from where Funko headquarters is, and it was actually on the same street on Wetmore Avenue. My mother was running the bar it was an American Legion bar, which used to be right next door to where Funko headquarters is currently. Um, I don't think that bar is there anymore. I think it went away a long time ago. Um, my father worked for a nonprofit organization called CASA, and they did a lot of military homecomings, stuff like that. Because in Everett, Washington, there's a huge naval base, and aircraft carrier is always stationed there. When we were there, it was the USS Abraham Lincoln. I think they've since changed it up, and I think it's the Carl Vinson now that's out of Everett, Washington, out of Naval Base Everett. Um, but then they'd have all the other ships that would come in. It would be a part of that as well. And my father was the one who helped organize all those, so we thought it was awesome. And my father's office was actually in the building the Funko HQ was in. So that was kind of like, like I was thinking about it now, and it's like back then I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. Like I kind of have like that little bit of a connection. Um, but so it turned out that my mother wasn't happy anymore. She wasn't satisfied with my father, and she um she went out. She found another guy. And my father was devastated. He packed his stuff in the back of this old station wagon he had. Remember, he woke me up in the middle of the night. He gave me a hug and he said goodbye. And we had a couple of minutes, and I watched him drive away in his minivan. And at that point, I didn't see him again for almost 9 years. But I understand why he did it. I never, I never held anything against him. Like, why'd you leave? Why'd you leave? I always understood why. Um, and then this new guy that my mother started to date. Um, I'm not going to use any real names in terms of certain people, just because I don't want to speak negatively on the deceased, and certain people I want to protect identities and stuff as well. Um, but so we'll we'll just call him F. It's just his first initial. So he first couple of weeks, like, we were cool with him. Like, he was taking us to the store, he was buying us bikes, he was buying us video games, and my brother and I, like, he was taking us to the record store, buying us albums. Like, we were, hey, this guy's awesome. And then one day I came home from school, and I was in middle school at this point. Um, I went to a school called North Elementary in Everett, Washington. Um, and I came home, and I'd put my bags down, and I came around the corner, and he just punched me as hard as he could in the face. And I was like, as a kid, I was like, what did I do wrong? Like, like did I mess something up? Like, what did I do? And it just turned into a daily thing. I would come home, and I would get punched in the face or thrown downstairs, and um, I've been kicked in my ribs with steel toe boots. Um, I've you name it, it's happened. I don't really want to go too far into it. I'm not upset talking about it because I've made my peace with it, because I understand that it happened, and there's nothing I can do to change it. But there's nothing I can do to also take it back. It's just like, I am who I am, and and that's it. Like, I'm not gonna use it to, like, hold me back, or to, like, use it as, like, sympathy card or anything. Like, oh, well, this happened to me, so the world owes me. No, the world doesn't owe me anything. What happened happened. The only person that owed me anything was him, and he owed me an apology at least, which I never got. So, other than that, nobody owes me a damn thing. Um, but I mean, you name it, it's happened. He's run me down with his work van. I mean, I've woken up to knives in my throat, and and my mother and he had a real bad alcohol problem, and substance abuse problem. Um, to the point where when they would start fighting, I would get pulled into it, and then he would beat the crap out of me in front of my mother, and my mother would do anything because he was also beating on her. Um, so then I ran away from home a lot as a kid. Like, I was like, I need to get away. Like, I can't stay in this house. And and I just kind of want to, for a second, this first part, I just want to cover why I was placed in foster care. Um, the next parts I'll cover, a little bit more of, like, the foster care process and the system and how things worked. And I was ultimately named a ward of the state. And I'll go through that process and how that worked. But anywho, so ran away from home a lot. Um, there was times I ran away from home, and we had a Howard Johnson in town, a Howard Johnson hotel, and there's a couple times I went in there, and in the hallways they had couches, and I would just lay on the couches and just go to sleep. And the overnight hotel people, they would find me and they would just put a blanket over me or something, just let me be. Or one time, the last time, well, I'm old. There was other times like I would just run away to like around the corner and just hide in the neighbor's garage or hide in their shed. Or I would go down to the waterfront in Everett, and there was this little area called Jetty Island. It's a big place where people would go crabbing. People would go fishing down there. People would, have cookouts, barbecues, and stuff, and picnics. And I would just go down there because it was, it was on the water, and I could just sit there on the beach and I could just watch the waves roll in, and it was very peaceful. It's very relaxing. Um, at the last time I ran away to a Toys R Us, and I knew they were getting ready to close. Now keep in mind when I ran away from home, our house was on 23rd Street at that time, and Toys R Us was on Everett Mall Way. And there was quite a difference between the two. I'm talking miles. Um, so I walked that whole way, and I hid underneath the table that had these like real big like tablecloths on either side. It was like a big rectangular table, and one of the store workers had found me trying to hide underneath the table, and they're like, you can't stay here. Like you have to go home. You have to find your parents. And then I just started crying, and I just let it all out. I was like, I can't go home. I can't go home. Um, so they did what any normal people did. They called the police, and I credit these people 100% for helping save my life. Um, and I say that because um, ultimately, when we went to court, um, my mother's boyfriend, stepfather, whatever you want to call him, he actually admitted to the courts that he was trying to kill me because I look like my biological father, and that was the reason behind his actions towards me. So, anywho, they called the police. The police tried taking me home, and I still remember everything about the house. It's like I was just there. It's I'll never be able to get the visuals out of my head. But my brother and I shared a bedroom, which was right above the front door, and they knocked on the door, didn't get an answer. Knocked on the door again, a light came on, and then turned right back off. And he knocked on the door a third time, and F stuck his head out and said, "Keep the bastard. We don't want him." And at that point, I was more like I was scared. I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, where am I gonna go? Like, yeah, I didn't think foster care was a thing. Like, I didn't like. What do they do with kids that don't have a home? Like, do I just live on the streets with the rest of the people who don't have homes? Like, I didn't know. And so he took me to the Everett Police Department, and I filled out a statement, and then he put me in so when you first get put into foster care in like an emergency type situation, they have what they call emergency placements. These places you can stay typically anywhere between 3 to 5 days, just depending on your particular situation. um, so they put me in a 5 day placement, and it was still in Everett, but it was on the other side of town. So I was still far enough away from home to where like if I was just be like sitting outside, like he wouldn't like they would just be able to just drive past me and be like, there he is, and jump out and whatever. Um, so yeah, that happened, and then started the court proceedings. But I will save the rest of that for another time. Um, but as far as like just this first part, like I said again, I'm not looking for sympathies. I'm not looking for sorries. I'm not looking for anything like that. Um, I just, I really want to put my story out there too, because I feel like there's people out there that I can help and people out there that I can reach. Um, what I went through was pretty horrific, and I don't use that as a crutch. I use that to grow. Um, I use that to grow into the person I am now, to the father I am now, to, you know, I used it to my advantage. I'm not gonna let this person bring me down and break me because that's what he wanted. Like, there's no way. Like, I'm gonna be who I'm gonna be, and that's final. And I'm gonna be the best person that I could be. Um, and I know that there's plenty of other children out there, other youth that suffer through things and never say anything. And I'm hoping that if one of them was to see my story, that they would reach out and try to get help and try to improve their situation. Um, because you don't have to go through this. You're not alone. There are people who care, and there are people who will fight for you. I've had so many people stand up and fight for me and help me along the way. You know, there are people who care. There really is. Um, but on that note, I will close this. I will record part two tomorrow, and so yeah. So hopefully, I wouldn't say I hope you found this entertaining, um, informative. Yeah, we'll go with that. I hope you found it informative. Um, but Scott, Ginger Pops, I'll see y'all next time.